British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak on Monday, 3rd April, condemned the political correctness which has prevented action against vile criminals behind the sexual abuse of children and young women, as he unveiled plans for a new task force to go after such gangs. Sunak's announcement comes a day after his Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, said that the perpetrators of such crimes are groups of men, almost all British Pakistani, but that authorities have turned a blind eye to these signs of abuse out of political correctness, out of fear of being called racists, out of fear of being called bigoted. Asked about the ethnicity of the criminals during a visit to Rochdale, one of the cities with a history of British Pakistani grooming gangs, Sunak told reporters, "All forms of child sexual exploitation carried out by whoever are horrific and wrong." According to the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, grooming is when someone, a stranger or someone you know, builds a relationship, trust and emotional connection with a child or young person so they can manipulate, exploit and abuse them. Children and young people who are groomed can be sexually abused, exploited or trafficked, said the UK-based organisation. Children and young people can be groomed online, in person or both by a stranger or someone they know, it added. The new Grooming Gangs Task Force will involve specialist officers parachuted in to assist police forces with live child sexual exploitation and grooming investigations for stricter action against those who groom children for sexual abuse. Led by the police and supported by the UK's National Crime Agency, Downing Street says that the task force will consist of officers with extensive experience in undertaking grooming gang investigations. They will provide critical support to forces countrywide to root out grooming gangs and put more perpetrators behind bars. Data analysts will work alongside the task force using cutting-edge data and intelligence, including police-recorded ethnicity data, to identify the types of criminals who carry out these offences. This will include better data on the makeup of grooming gangs, including ethnicity, to make sure suspects cannot hide behind cultural sensitivities as a way to evade justice, Downing Street added. Last year, a 7-year independent inquiry into child sexual abuse described sexual abuse of children as an epidemic that leaves tens of thousands of victims in its poisonous wake. In line with its recommendations, Braverman said that the government has sought to introduce a policy to make failure to report child sexual abuse illegal for people who work with children in England on Sunday. She added, the policy will target criminals who hold cultural attitudes that are incompatible with British values and how they remain unchallenged within their communities out of political correctness and fear of being called racists. In this context, she was referring to British Pakistani grooming gangs that she said targeted vulnerable white girls living in troubled circumstances. The Home Secretary added, these girls had been abused, drugged, raped and exploited by a network of gangs of rapists, which she claimed were overwhelmingly made up of British Pakistani males, reported BBC. Following Braverman's remarks, the NSPCC and experts in grooming gangs have warned lawmakers not to frame the issue based on ethnicity, as it could hamper tackling the crime. It's also vital we remember that any child can be a victim of child sexual exploitation and adult perpetrators do not just come from one background, said Sir Peter Warnless, the chief executive of the NSPCC. He added, sexual predators will target the most vulnerable and accessible children in society, and there must be a focus on more than just race so we do not create new blind spots that prevent victims from being identified. According to official reports, only 11% of child sexual abuse cases in the UK end with a charge, which is down from 32% 7 years ago. The PM has also vowed that grooming gang members and leaders will receive the toughest sentences possible with the introduction of these proposed legislations.